Morning, everyone. So my name is Michael Powacht. I'm originally from Austria, but I've been living in Thailand for more than 25 years. I'm the Chief Technology Officer and the System Integrator at Zurich Industrial. And the topic for me today is connect anything, automate everything. And what does that mean really? So I think that the availability of the RESTful plugin, which was developed by Heng Sin, I believe, is really a game changer, right? Because now it gives us the ability to connect our iDempiere ERP through REST APIs with a number of different services, platforms. So, for example, WooCommerce would be an option for B2B, business to consumer, or Shopify would be an option there. So it opens the whole world for e-commerce, for business to business, business to consumer here. And then ever more popular, of course, are the platforms. Lazada, I'm from Asia, so Lazada are very, very big platforms in Asia, Shopee and Lazada. In Europe, it's probably more like Amazon. So you want to hook into these retail platforms where people go in, order their stuff, and we send our orders back into our ERP system. Banking. So what we have done here, we have connected our bank interfaces, HSBC and Bangkok Bank, with iDempiere using REST APIs. But then there are other things like HR. As we know, I mean, iDempiere is good at many things, but there are also maybe some things which are somewhat lacking. So if you have a different enterprise software for HR, you can then connect. You can then, sorry, is it better? So you can then connect HR. Okay, it's okay. Thank you. Okay. So you can then connect HR with your iDempiere system. Or another use case I can think of is MES. If you have a production facility and you want to have a manufacturing execution system talk to iDempiere and to your production orders in iDempiere, you can build a RESTful API between your MES system and your iDempiere system. Payroll could be another option. Payroll meaning, you know, the monthly salaries, the salary calculation. You send a RESTful API and transfer data from your from payroll into ERP to make your salary postings. Data warehousing would be another use case here. Government services. So what we do in Thailand, we are importing daily our BOT, Bank of Thailand rates, because it's mandated by the government to use these rates for foreign currency conversion. So we are using web services to import from our government websites into iDempiere. AI, of course, big topic, and I think there will be a lot more coming in terms of presentations on AI. So basically, you just tap into some of these AI services, use them and import it into the system. Then point of sale. So I can also imagine a scenario where you have a vending machine, and the vending machines are RESTful API enabled, and whenever the vending machine sells something, it records a sale and transmits it to the iDempiere system through a REST API. And then, of course, the whole world of cryptocurrency and blockchain, where you have, options to pull in data from your blockchain. And Internet of Things. And all these things, I mean, these are just some examples, right? But these things can now talk to iDempiere, and it's only the sky is really the limit here. So how did we come up with that connect anything, automate everything? What was the trigger for that? So what happened in Thailand at Zurich was that we were suddenly confronted with all these requirements, right? So people wanted to have everything connected. They came and said, I want to have a business-to-business store. People came and said, I want to have a business-to-consumer. We want to sell our products in that division to the end customers using our own web store. Then they came and said, oh, I want to connect to these business portals, to these platforms, Shopee and Lazada. So all of these things were just quite overwhelming for us, right? So what do we do? You know, how can we manage this? Should we now start developing interfaces for each and every of these requests, or is there just a better way to do these kinds of things? And we also know that, you know, no single software is the best in everything. You know, we have to accept the fact that there is some systems that are better than others in doing certain things. And what we then do is we connect these things now to iDempiere. So iDempiere is our ERP backbone for transactional processing, for accounting, logistics, inventory management, but then we've got all these other systems out there that connect into that backbone. Another consideration that we had when we were looking for solutions to all these requirements were how do we make sure that the data quality is adequate? So the idea is always that we have a single version of the truth. What does that mean? I'm going to show later on our business-to-business portal, which is based on WordPress. So what we want to do here is that iDempiere is the leading system where I create my products, maintain my products. All the information is specified in the product master, and this information is then replicated into my web store. And that way I don't have to maintain two systems. I only maintain one version of the truth, and I replicate that into my web store. So whenever there's a change to a product, like a description or a category, or anything else related to the product, I do it in iDempiere, and then we synchronize it to the web store. And another requirement here was, of course, I want to have a single platform to manage all these APIs. So once you start interfacing HR, once you start interfacing to Shopee and Lazada, once you start interfacing to your WooCommerce website, you want to be able to manage all your APIs in a single place. You don't want to, you know, develop all these disparate systems in different places, but you want to manage and control them in a single place. And we started out and we basically did some research to try to find an adequate solution for this requirement of running these things on a single platform. And I think we really found a good solution to do that. And that solution was Node-RED. I don't know who has ever heard about this product. Yeah, you did? Okay, good. So Node-RED is an API platform, and you can build API application using that platform with something called flows. And these flows control the value flow between the different systems. And I will then show you later how that works in a real life demo. And so Node-RED is an open source product, first of all. It's a visual development environment because you can visually connect the different nodes together. But it also is very flexible and powerful in terms of defining your flows with, because you can also use JavaScript, and you can also use a scripting language called JSONata. So you have all the tools available. Everything is open source and industry standard to build your APIs and your workflows. This is the website here, nodered.org. So I recommend you to go there. And so with that in mind, we have now this integration platform called Node-RED, and this is how our own architecture now looks like. So of course at the core we have our iDempiere system there, and then we have our data warehouse, which is Superset. I think there will also be a presentation about that. But then we have now this Node-RED single layer for our APIs, and we are connecting all these external applications like our banking interfaces, our government interfaces, our HR, our platforms, our retail platforms, and point of sales through that platform to iDempiere. So here is a little comparison, between Node-RED and Swagger, because I think many of you are using Swagger. So Node-RED is really not just about the specification and the tool set for REST APIs. It's really a platform to model your workflows, to model your data flows from one system to another using RESTful APIs. And with that tool, you can basically automate your workflows completely. As I have shown earlier, to IoT, to your HR systems, all these things you can connect. And it uses open source industry solutions like JavaScript and JSONata. So JSONata is a powerful way to script and manipulate your JSON data structures. So you can do that in JavaScript, but you can also use JSONata. So the platform supports both. And the platform also allows you to execute flows in real time. So for example, if you have a point of sale terminal and that sends an API request, the platform will immediately pick it up and process the API and do whatever needs to be done. So yes, so this is in a nutshell what Node-RED is doing. So coming now to a more specific use case in Thailand. So we have a business-to-business web store called WooCommerce, and I will show that right now to you, how this looks like. I need to get out here. So I'm going now to my test shop, which is based on WooCommerce, and as you know, WooCommerce is an e-commerce solution sitting on the WordPress platform. So you have WordPress, WooCommerce, and then we have this. This is our business-to-business portal. And as you can see here, there are different types of products that we are selling. This is just a sample selection here of products that we are selling. These are tools. And you can see here that this website requires a login by the business partners. So you have the wholesale login here. So our business-to-business partner, they will log in here, and then they will go in and basically just, it's a little bit slow here right now. Okay. Oops. So for example, this product here. So you see a picture of this product, you see a description of this product, you see the SKUs, the categories of the products, and then you see here the product specifications. So this is the WooCommerce website for our business-to-business portal. And on the other hand side, if you go back to the presentation. On the other hand side, we have, of course, iDempiere, right? And so what I'm going to show you now is how we synchronize our iDempiere products from here to this website here. Let me show this a little bit more clearly. What is the workflow? So we have here our iDempiere system with REST API plugin. We have here our WooCommerce site with a REST API. And then we have our Node-RED platform, which also has a REST API. So when we synchronize products from iDempiere to the web store, this is what happens. So we are picking up the information from the product information from iDempiere using our Node-RED platform, and we are passing it on to the WooCommerce website. And if we then continue, when we receive a customer order, a B2B customer order, the customer selects products, the quantities and so forth, and places the order. There is something called a webhook, an HTML webhook in WooCommerce, which then picks up the order information and sends it back to iDempiere. So it goes back from the webhook into iDempiere. So this is the full process. So on one hand side, we have the product information maintained in iDempiere synchronized to the web store, and then we have a webhook which picks up new orders and pushes it back into iDempiere. So what I'm going to show here today is the product synchronization, just as an example to show you how these flows work. So for that, okay, I showed you already the website. I think in my example here I have a product which we want to look at. Oops, sorry, that was too fast. I have a product I want to look at, which is this. I want to copy it, sorry. Do it like this. So we go here to the tools section, which shows all the products, and then I'm going to find this product here. First I need to find my local name of this product. Oh, here we go. It's already here, sorry. So this is the name of the product, which I filtered out in my web store. And what I'm going to show you here today is how this information of maintaining this product in iDempiere flows from iDempiere into the web store. Okay, so I'm copying this and then I'm going to iDempiere here. All right, here we go. So you see that this is my product master, and this product master contains all the information that is needed to manage this, to manage the product information in the web store. So we have here a local name. This is the name that is being displayed in the web store. You see there are some Thai characters in there as well. So English mixed with Thai. And then we have here a document node, and that is an interesting one. So we use that field here. That's an HTML capable field. We use this field here to put in the product specification, and that HTML code is replicated into the web store. And then we have here what is called classification. So I see a number of classifications here, like tools, power tools, senders. So there's a hierarchy of classifications, which will also get then replicated into the web store. And this is what Carlos mentioned earlier, right? This is an image URL. You can see that there is a link now established between iDempiere, this image, and the web store, which is really cool, because we can see the product image in iDempiere and in the web store. So this is really nice. And another thing here I want to show. So in order to maintain the product information in the web store, it's not just the name of the product, the classifications, the categories, and so forth. It's also information about the stock quantities, right? So the stock quantities, as we know, they can be found in the subtab here in iDempiere, right? So here I can see how much is available for a particular product in every warehouse. And the other important thing to notice is that I want to also be able to display the price of the product in the web store. Again, all this information comes from iDempiere, right? The prices are maintained in iDempiere. Of course, the quantities are coming through iDempiere. And this information needs to be replicated into the web store. Now, these are actually different tables, right? So the product is M product, the product information is M_product, but the costing information is coming from an entirely different table. So how did we do that? We made a view, we made a database view, which aggregates the product information and links them with the pricing information and links them with the stock quantity information. And that view then basically has in one record all the information that I need to replicate with my online store. And with views, I'm completely flexible because I can join whatever table I want, right? So you can do whatever you need with this method. Right, so let's go back now to the, we have the prototype here and here. Okay, let's go now to the Node-RED platform. So this is how Node-RED looks like. It's basically like a web server. And Node-RED allows you to build what is called flows. So every tab that you see here is a different flow, is a different type of API, a different type of interface that you want to build. So here I'm having my prototype iDempiere product synchronization tab. Prototype, that means it's a testing system, right? And here I have my production iDempiere product synchronization. This is a flow that defines webhooks and orders I receive on my web store and get replicated back into iDempiere. And this one is my HR interface. And there are many flows you can define. It's basically unlimited how many flows you can design between your different systems here. So for products, we are going to look at the prototype because that's my testing system. And I'm just quickly explain what this thing is doing here. So you see all these different blocks here. In these blocks you have the different nodes, and the nodes are connected, and there's different kinds of nodes, right? So you always start here with a node that triggers an API call. Now, normally for product synchronization, you want this to happen automatically, right? You want this to happen automatically, like every 6 hours, every 12 hours, depending on the turnover of your inventory. So for us, we don't have very, very fast turnovers, so we usually run it every 12 hours. Now, for the purpose of this demonstration, I will use ad hoc, because ad hoc means I can start the API now, and it will execute immediately. But if you look at production here, in production, we run it actually every 6 hours Singapore time. Yeah, not every 12, every 6 hours. And then you see all these other nodes here. So these are function nodes where you can define variables. Variables are very important to define certain values that are needed in your API call. So for example, if you want to connect to iDempiere, you need your iDempiere URL here. So the iDempiere URL here is proto.erp.zülligindustrial.com. And then you have a URL for your WordPress, which is shop.zülligindustrial.com and so forth. So you can define variable here. And then you have other nodes, which are function nodes, and that is very interesting because you're very flexible in defining your code in JavaScript here. So you can use JavaScript to your heart's content and build in logic into your API call, which is needed. And then what you see here is sort of like a loop here, right? So here we are trying to get the WooCommerce products that are already defined in WooCommerce. Because we are synchronizing our product information, the first thing to do is to look what is already in WooCommerce, right? And then compare it with what is in iDempiere, and then whatever has changed needs to be updated. Or if there's a new product needs to be created. And this loop here is used to manage limits in your platform. So WooCommerce has a limit as to how many records you can retrieve through an API call, right? So I think it can only be like 20 or something, or 25 in one API call. So then you need to go through a loop and basically call the same API over and over to retrieve all the information, right? So this is how it works. And then the second step is that we also synchronize the product categories. I find out which product categories are already there. which brands are already there. We are selling a lot of different brands, so this helps me finding all the brands in WooCommerce. And this node here fetches all the image IDs. Because in WooCommerce we are storing all the product images, and every image has an ID. And this ID is very important when I start synchronizing. Then the last block here, that is the most interesting. After I retrieve all the information here in the top section, I put that into an array, into a variable, into an array, and compare it with what is retrieved from iDempiere, and then I either create a new product if the product is not yet already in WordPress, in WooCommerce, or I update the product or the relevant fields if they are already there. Okay. When we talk about WooCommerce, there's not really a deletion of products, physically deletion of products, because products may have already been used in orders. And so we only mark them as inactive, right? So we are not deleting the product physically, we mark them as inactive or can no longer be sold or something like that. So, and what you see here is a sequence that is connected, and when I push this button here, the system will carry out all these nodes. It will make all these API calls, fetch the data, store them in arrays, go to the next one, process the information, modify it to fit into the iDempiere structure, and then make a call into iDempiere. So let's start doing this. So I push this button here now, and when I push this button, the system will just start doing its thing, right? And you can really see here in a visual way where the flow is right now, in which state the flow is. So I'm pushing this button here. Before I do that, I also want to demonstrate actually a case where something is changing. So I need to make first a change. So let's go back to our product. So this was the product here. So this is our product we want to change. This is our description right now, okay? So let's go to iDempiere and see how that looks like there. It's already there. And so to see a change, I will now make a change to the product name here, okay? I will just make here these three things here, okay? And see how this change gets replicated from iDempiere back into the WooCommerce store with the help of Node-RED here. So I made the change now, and now I'm starting it. And you see here now that the first block is being executed now, and it says here requesting. Thank you. It says here requesting, so that means the system makes all these API calls right now. And this takes a little bit of time because we don't have the fastest web server. And we basically need to wait now until all these steps are executed. And the product is being updated in the WooCommerce store. Second. Now we're in the second. So here it fetches the categories in the WooCommerce store. And in Node-RED, I of course also have the ability to log things, right? So if I want to write out a log, I can do this here and it will write out the log. I didn't do that right now. But you have the ability to. Now it's coming to the third step. So I think we have 75 products in there, so it takes a bit of time. the image IDs, they usually take the longest. And now you can see here, this is now the step where we do the put update. So this is where we call the put, an API put call, make an API put call to update all the products which were selected, 75 products. And then we should see the update in the product name. So here we basically have several API calls to WooCommerce. We have an API call to iDempiere using that special view that contains all the product information and prices and stock quantities. And then we have another call to WooCommerce to update every product. Yeah?
That one is REST or?
It's all REST. It's all REST. Yeah. Yes. This is all standard REST or industry standard stuff. So here, if we look at that node here, so the URLs are defined here, you see? And here we are doing the GET calls. And the GET calls are based on a fixed authentication token right now. So basically you generate a one-time token which you then use over, because it's always between the same systems, right? But in Node-RED you also have the option to do OAuth, which is, expiry tokens and so forth. You can also do that as well. But if the same systems are always talking, right? You don't need that expiry token, you just use a fixed token. So the other cool thing about Node-RED is it allows you to import flows. So I can go in here and export my flows here, and I can share it with someone, and they can import the flows, and they can then make some modifications or just reuse it completely like that. The only thing to note here is when you export and import, everything related to a password or a token will be gone. So you have to redefine those tokens, of course, for security reasons. And so this is really cool. You can share this. And then there's other things that Node-RED also has plugins. So for example, OAuth, if you want to have expiring tokens, you just install other plugins there. So it's also based on a plugin system, which is very nice. So this has long finished now, so we see there is 0 now. So I hope that my product data was updated. So I refresh this page. And we see that now the information is updated here. And what is really important to note here, we are very clear that all changes have to be done in iDempiere. There will be no changes directly in the web store, in WooCommerce. You could do that, but we don't allow that. So all the information is controlled in a single place, which is iDempiere. And that way we don't have any redundant data maintenance. We have it in a single place, and then we can just replicate it over. Let me show you the view that I created for this particular purpose, because this is just really an example here. There's many more use cases, right? So I'm going into PG admin and going to my prototype database. To views. Sorry, I can also, I think it's there. So here. So this would be my view for the product information. And here I bring together the basic product information, like the description, the product names, but I'm also bringing together here the product price, yeah, you see, and locator storage information for, you know, I need to connect basically the M product table with the costing table and with the location tables, which then gives me a view where I can conveniently access every product and its related information and use it in my API call. So when I call the API, basically I'm calling an API opening the view information. That's what I'm doing. I'm not going directly into the product master, I'm calling the view. And so this is how it works, right? And as I said, this is just really an example only. You can use this platform for many other things as well. So if we go back to Node-RED, so we are using it right now for the product synchronization. We're using it for orders coming in from the web store using webhooks. So this is the webhook flow. Basically, the WooCommerce store calls this API, sends the order information, and the order then goes into iDempiere. Now, we are not putting the order straight into the order table. We are always going through the import tables. So it's going to be I_order table, right? And then I have a periodic job which imports the orders from the import table into the orders table. We are never going directly into the orders table. Yeah. Then we have an employee thing for our HR database, and we are working on other things here as well. So I think this is really, for us, this is a bit of a game changer because it allows us to connect anything, or the platforms or the web stores. We are planning to do business to consumer in future that will work in a similar way. And it's completely automated, right? So you schedule these runs, these API calls, either periodically or it's triggered automatically through a webhook. And you basically don't need an administrator to type in an order again that you get through the web store into iDempiere. It's just completely automated, right? So that is the idea, that we let our customers who order something create the order in our system, right? So that way we become more efficient, less error prone, and we become more productive. So that's it. No questions?
I will have some questions, if possible. Yes. Okay. So we are experimented similar way with Apache Camel.
Apache what?
Apache Camel.
Okay.
It's the Java-based system.
Okay.
And the question is here, what is the batch-based? That means if you start the first job, it's a batch. And if, let's say, you had 75 products and you have an error in data model, for example, then how you can trace and catch and monitoring this issue?
Yeah, so what we have here...
How you can continue, skip it, or how to resolve it?
Yeah, there's different methods. So for this one, it's a very simple use case. But what we have here at the end is that there is an email node which sends out a summary of all the things that were done by this flow. So you say that basically 75 products were updated, one product was created, and any problems that were. So you can have an email-based logging or communication mechanism there, which is really nice. So email, again, email is not coming out of the box. Email is actually another plugin that you have to install, but it's just installing the plugin, and then you can use email functionality. It sends it through SMTP, to any address that you put in there.
Probably this is a plugin for monitoring, like AWS CloudWatch or something, external monitoring.
I would have to check, but we don't use that right now. So this one, this one is running on OVH. It's just a bare metal server where I installed this one. So it's a Debian Linux server, and and it has its own URL. It's called API. So I have a nice URL here where I can go to, and then I see this. Yeah, so this is not running on Amazon right now. This is on OVH. This is the email node. Let me show you. See here? This is the email node. So you see here the port, the SMTP address, and the user ID. And you can, of course, also customize the structure of the email, right? So what goes into the subject, what it's completely open. Because you can use JavaScript in the process, and that allows you to be incredibly flexible, right? How you want to do things.
You can catch the exception and also to create a put and save the error.
You can, yes. So if you want to do that, you can catch errors and also write it to a database if you want, because you have connectors to databases as well. You can do all these kinds of things. Yeah. So there's no limit, because anything that has a RESTful API you can connect to, right? And if the database has a RESTful API, you can also connect to that. So it's infinitely flexible.
Regarding to the performance, because it's written in Node.js, it's a single thread. Did you try to read, let's say, we are reading daily approx 30,000 products from an API and editing them.
My experience with that is, I think the biggest limit is the limit imposed by the platform which API you are calling. So for WooCommerce, there is a documented limit as to how many records you can retrieve in one API call, right? And if you do more, it will just start skipping it, right? So you need to build these loops here, right? But I mean, it really depends on the target platform, I would say, what is the limit. If it's single-threaded or multi-threaded, I think it's multi-threaded, if you ask me, yeah.
And do we have a Shopify integration probably?
Not yet. No, we don't. We use WooCommerce now, so.
We need it.
Huh?
We need it.
Yeah, well, it's.
Our customer wants to do it.
Yeah. So, yeah, so as long Shopify, I was checking that, has an open API, right? They have a RESTful API. And that is the only prerequisite, really, that you need to build an integration. The rest is just defining, you know, modeling the structures of the JSON, you know, to be able to talk. And you can use JavaScript for that to manipulate the data in a JSON structure, or you can use JSONata. So that as long as it supports RESTful, you can do anything. There is nothing you can't do. Yeah.
That is my question.
Anyone?
Oh, where to start?
I have a question about the image location.
Yes.
In the iDempiere, you just send a URL, and
No.
where is the...
No, that's okay. Good question. No, so what we do with images, the images are actually still side-loaded directly into the WooCommerce store. And in iDempiere, and that follows a certain naming convention. Huh? That's a very strict naming convention. And in iDempiere, we basically take this naming convention and construct the URL as a string and put it into the image field. And because of we are following these conventions, there will then be a link to this product, right? So it's not that we put the product as an attachment into iDempiere and then we synchronize the image to WooCommerce. We are not doing that. So the images are still side-loaded. That's the only exception.
I'm asking why it's a double job. Because you have to load first the image on the...
Yeah, the images are basically just separately loaded. You know, we don't really have that many new products. So once a week we are just copying the whole batch and loading it into WooCommerce. So, but you can even automate this, I guess, right? Where you, it's just the way we have done this initially, but there's still a better way to do it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Just one recommendation, we are using Super DMS from Lobbylight, and we are bursting all images into the Lobbylight and storing in Amazon AWS.
In S.
And then we are publishing it as a public storage provider, and it's accessible. That is also one option if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we are not using AWS S3. For these things, we are using, I hate to say it, the OneDrive. My company uses Windows products, so I have to live with that. So I guess even there we could do the same thing, right? Because OneDrive, I guess there will be an open API and we could fetch it also that way. But we haven't done that because we don't have that many new products. And so, you know, this manual batch copying like once a week is more than enough for us. But yeah, as long as there's a RESTful API, you can do everything.
Michael, thank you for your presentation, very interesting. So the question is the following. I'm coming not from technical side, I'm coming more from managerial side of business. So I don't know if my question will sound stupid.
No.
But we also have the same situation, similar situation. We have iDempiere core, and we have, in the last years, we have many demands with integrating with other systems like Amazon Lake. We sell our products through different channels. Our own website, made on a different platform, and Amazon like other big providers. But we communicate with them via REST directly. No this special intermediary platform like Node that's used. So could you please expand on the reasons why did you choose to add this special layer between iDempiere and other platforms, foreign platforms, let me say, instead of talking direct, because iDempiere works with AP, REST AP, other platforms work, why not directly?
Because we want to manage our APIs in a single place. That's basically the reason, right? So if I go to Node-RED, I see all my tabs here. I can turn on logging, right? So I can basically, like an administrator, I can see everything that happened, when was the last run, and so forth. So, and also it's a unified way to define those APIs, right? So we are using them with JSONata, we're using them with JavaScript. So they are built in a consistent way because Node-RED enforces certain rules, right? And so that means it's the consistency, it's a central way of, it's a single platform where you control everything. And I like that personally, rather than having a very distributed kind of environment where I have like 5 or 6 different APIs and they are managed in different ways. So it's nice to have that on a single platform, I believe. And this is just the beginning for us, because we are going to use it for many other things, like for Shopee, Lazada. We are going to use it maybe in future for MES, to integrate MES with iDempiere. And so I think a central point of management for APIs is, I think, a good practice for us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Does it just update the variables, or does it go through some?
Yeah, so I think you can do that the way you want. For us, we are updating every field because it saves us from a lot of code logic, right? So we are just saying, if it's not a new product, then it's an existing product, and if it's an existing product, just update all the fields. And the reason we did it is it's very straightforward. We don't have that much volume in our database, right? But if you have millions of products, you might want to reconsider and just look for changes, right?
Yes.
But this is a really foolproof way. Okay, just update everything every time, and it will be in sync, right? But for millions of products, I wouldn't recommend it. But then again, that platform allows you to do all kinds of things, right? Depending on how you use it, because you just use JavaScript or to build your code. Your logic there.
May I?
One moment.
I answer to Eugene. We made the same approach without an external, but I think that this is more flexible. And so if you could not have the same well-documented flow of all the process, and if you get one, you can duplicate and change, and inside the iDempiere, you need to make by developer, and maybe here is more easy.
Yeah, but I think what would be nice I think what would be nice if iDempiere also had webhooks, right? Where you get a trigger signal when, you know, when something changes and information about what it is that gets changed. I'm not sure if that is on the roadmap or if, you know what I mean? So,
On the wish list?
because then you can be very specific, right? So if a field changes, you just react to that change directly and update that field that gets triggered by the webhook. So that would be really nice. But right now we update just everything, right?
That is export processor replication you can use for that.
What is that?
We are using export processor, which you can define the Java class and connect to the external services like ActiveMQ or other queue-based services, and the iDempiere is pushing on each PO change the data.
Oh, okay, okay.
But
Is that the recommended way?
we are using it in a production
Yeah.
for external e-commerce integration and
Yeah.
also for
I mean-
for automated warehouse maybe.
I mean, if you have this,
But it's not replacing the webhook. Webhook is good idea, I think. And maybe Urlo did it. So need into the code.
Maybe webhooks can be on core or in REST. Webhooks can be in REST also.
which one? That?
Webhooks could be made in REST. It's just a
Yes, yes.
a new endpoint to trigger something. It's easier.
Ah, okay, yeah.
It's very easier.
I mean, if you have that, right, then the processing time will be cut significantly because you only update the specific products which had changes or where there was a new product, right? Here, I'm just reading everything every time, you know, but for our data, as I said, it's
in the other side, yeah, you need that for orders, to trigger orders.
correct, but WooCommerce has webhooks, right? So
When
it's
it's a product, you use webhooks.
yes,
But when it's an order, you cannot because
Correct.
we don't have it.
yes, correct.
Can
Exactly.
I ask what integration do you have with Supercenter for use?
Not yet, not yet. It was just an example of for future implementation. Yeah,
Maybe to centralize users or something.
something like that. Yes, yeah.
And what about multi-tenancy? So
Huh?
let's say you have 10 customers and can be quite complicated or complex to set up for each customer differently. And maybe you want to have the 50 customers and you want to use the
Complicated in which way?
I think maybe if you have, I imagine this is the one server or one project for this integration.
So let's talk about this. So this is B2B, right?
Yes.
So the complexity there is that different B2B customers have different conditions,
Okay.
right? So there are customers that fall into group A, B, C, and they get different discounts, yeah? So the A class gets 10% discount, the B class gets 20%, strongly simplified, and the C class gets 30% discount. So these master data and these structures, these discount structures, are defined in WooCommerce, right? And so when the order gets created, the system will automatically determine which group the customer belongs to, and then automatically do the right discount calculations for that. Yeah? So there are certain configurations that you need to do in WooCommerce. Actually, it's not only WooCommerce; it's also it's called the wholesale suite that we are using, because the wholesale suite gives you more flexibility with discounts, wholesale discounts. So that's how you do it, right?
Thanks.
Any more questions?
Just one information, in 3 minutes we can launch.
Okay, cool. So I can comment a little bit on this topic about discounts and prices and everything. We had the same consideration because we have a website, but we decided to make all the calculations for prices and promotions all inside iDempiere, and website is only like a slave in this regard.
Yeah.
So we only showing on the website what is being already calculated or permitted by the ERP system.
Mm-hmm.
That's our approach. Just a comment. It's not like it's better or worse, but we decided for this.
Yeah, so the idea is that 95% of the orders, they go through as standard orders, and it's purely master data driven. Nothing to change there. But then there are certain exceptions, I would call it, where an order comes in and the defaults need to be overridden. In this case, an administrator has to go into WooCommerce, make the adjustments on the order, and then change the status, which the webhook then picks up and sends the order into iDempiere. So that happens, right? But in 95% of the cases, it's like really purely master data driven. Yeah.
Okay, master data, but in our case, we also use promotions to decide what kind of discount we can now allow according to the number of lines in the order, according to the value of the order.
Yeah, but also there, I mean, the order comes in, the order is placed by a customer in WooCommerce, right? And you can, before you even start with taking orders, you have your configuration set up in WooCommerce that says there is a volume discount, right? So there are certain configuration things, right, that have to be done first in WooCommerce. And iDempiere gets automatically the order based on that configuration that is already there. And in only few cases we need to touch that order again, right? Because it's a really individual case, but in 95% of cases. But you're right, we always want to, totally hands off, right? The website should be the slave actually.
Okay, thank you for information. Thank you.
Many thanks. If no question, then many thanks for presentation, and we can move to lunch.
Lunch.
Yes.